What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. So today we're going to continue our season preview videos. Today we're looking at the St. Louis Blues. The Blues have had an interesting offseason. They have lost a couple players via offer sheet. We're going to discuss that. We're going to look at some of the guys that came into the organization this summer as well. Are the St. Louis Blues going to be able to get back to the playoffs? That's the big question going into 2024, 2025. We're going to answer that and go over why in today's video. So, the St. Louis Blues. This group is definitely a little bit different. So, we've got Jake Neighbors, Robert Thomas, and Jordan Kyrou as your top line. I think that's a good group right there. I think that's a group that definitely is going to help. It's definitely different than what we've seen from the St. Louis Blues over the last, really from the last generation of this team. But I really like Robert Thomas and Kyrou. I think they really have kind of stabilized themselves as legitimate NHL, like maybe not superstars, but like their core players on the St. Louis Blues. Jake Neighbors came in, did really well last season. And we're going to see him probably play a more prominent role this year, even than he did last year. The second line, you have Brandon Saad, Pavel Buchnevich, and Braden Schenn. It's a bit of an older line compared to the rest of this team, but I think that's a good line, honestly. I think that's a line that could potentially get moved around, depending on how some of the younger guys further down the lineup play. But I like that grouping overall. The third line, you got Dylan Holloway, Radek Faksa, and Alexei Toropchenko. Dylan Holloway, obviously one of the guys they snagged from the Edmonton Oilers. I really like Dylan Holloway. He's going to be a top six player. So whether he moves, a guy like Schenn or Saad to the third line, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens at some point. Radek Faksa, I know he will no longer be wearing a Dallas Stars jersey. It's kind of going to be really weird to see him in a jersey other than Dallas. Radek Faksa is going to center the third line on the Blues alongside Toropchenko. We already talked about him. The fourth line, we got Matthew Joseph, Oscar Sundqvist, and Alex Texier. So Texier has had a lot of rough issues in Columbus. He's going to get a chance with the St. Louis Blues this year. Missed, I think, the entirety of last season. So I think there's a good opportunity for him to rebuild his game, get his game back on track. He's still young enough, and that's why the Blues probably see something from what he has shown in the past. And now that he's back, hopefully things go well for Texier. He's definitely one of the guys I'm rooting for this season. Matthew Joseph, he's been bouncing around the league a little bit as well, so he's going to look for a stable home with the Blues, hopefully. And Oscar Sundqvist, like I said, there's a lot of penalty killers in that bottom six. Radek Faksa, Sundqvist, Joseph, I like that group a lot. There's a team that's going to be able to play defense. But will they be able to score enough? We're going to talk about that later. So, defense, you've got Nick Leddy and Colton Parayko as your top pair. As long as those guys stay healthy, that's a solid top pair. Philip Broberg and Justin Falk is your second pair. Crazy that Broberg and Holloway both leave the Oilers and head to St. Louis. Those are two big additions for the St. Louis Blues. And I got to be honest with you. Those are guys that the St. Louis Blues, they got them for a bargain. I'm really happy that those guys are going to get an opportunity to play. They're going to get more ice time in St. Louis, honestly. So it's one of those things where, as much as it kind of sucks for the Oilers and everything like that, like the real winners here are the Blues and the players. I honestly think that. And I think Oilers fans might not like that, but there's just so much going on in that top six and that top four. They don't really have a spot in the lineup. So in St. Louis, they're going to get a lot more opportunity to succeed. Scott Perunovich and Ryan Suter is your third pair. Ryan Suter still banging around the NHL. He loves that Central Division. It seems like he can't get out of that division, between his time in Minnesota, obviously playing with the Nashville Predators before that, and then playing with the Dallas Stars most recently. It would only make sense that he would kind of continue the run here of going to the St. Louis Blues here. So we'll see how he does there. Honestly, that's a big blue line, right? Parayko's a big guy. Perunovich, Suter. I would say Broberg's a pretty big guy as well. So there's a lot of big defensemen on that group, and that's kind of been one of the MOs of the St. Louis Blues, having a big blue line. Torrey Krug is also listed as out. So if you're wondering why isn't he mentioning Torrey Krug, he's still listed as out. So hopefully he'll be back healthy at some point. But Torrey Krug not on the roster at this moment. Goaltending's a big question here as well for the Blues. Jordan Binnington and Joel Hofer, that's your group. Hofer is a good young goalie. He'll probably be the starter for the Blues, but maybe not this year. Jordan Binnington has had an up and down career for the Blues, and I think at some point they're going to say this is not like this is too much. It's up and down and up and down, and they need a little bit more stability, a little bit more consistency in between the pipes. So we'll see what happens there, but I would not be surprised if we hear more about Binnington trade rumors, whether it's next offseason or closer to the trade deadline. It's going to be interesting to see what the St. Louis Blues are thinking there. Honestly, I really like the additions they made this summer. The offer sheets, I think, helped out the Blues a lot. And as crazy as that sounds, I think there's a team that's still gonna probably miss the playoffs. I think that division is gonna be better than it was last year. I look at teams like Nashville, Minnesota, Winnipeg's good, and then also you've got Dallas, Colorado. That's gonna be a difficult division next year. So for the Blues, I have them finishing with 90 points next season. So they missed the playoffs, but it's not by a lot. They still missed the playoffs, but they're right there. That's respectable. 90 points is very respectable. I think it comes down to, losing Krug. That's a tough loss to start the year. God knows what other injuries are going to come up at some point during the season for the Blues. And the goaltending. I'm really not sold on Binnington yet. And if Joel Hofer comes in as the starter and he does what we hope he can do early on, maybe there is that shot for the Blues. But I think right now they're still in that state of transition and in a division that I think is going to get a whole lot better than it's been recently. I think the Blues are one of those teams that's probably going to fall off this year once again. So I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the St. Louis Blues? Because honestly, I think that's a pretty fair rating. If anything, it's probably a little too high for the Blues, giving them 90 points. But like I said, I'd love to know what you guys are at, what you're thinking with the Blues. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys again next time.